Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Allegany County Board of Education meeting for March 14th. Would you please stand for the pledge to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As you all notice, to my right is not Mr. Blank. Mr. Blank is ill today, so Dr. Callbaugh has agreed to step in and sit in his place. We'll see how that goes for us. But Mr. Blank, I think, is home doing well, and hopefully he'll be back to work tomorrow. So we'll go to read closed session summaries for executive session February 14th. Mr. Llewellyn.
The Allegany County Board of Education met in closed session on February 14, 2023 at 3 p.m. here at Central Office. The purpose of the closed session was to consult with legal counsel, discuss personnel matters, and to engage in administrative function. All 5 board members were present, and the vote to go into executive session was unanimous. The topics discussed were non-renewal of a teaching certificate, social media mass litigation, the board's ethics policy, evaluation tool for superintendent, and an appeal from a student. The authority to meet in closed session can be found under the General Provisions article, Section 3, 305B, 1, and 7.
Do I have a motion on the, no motion on that? Moving to the consent agenda. Need a motion on the consent agenda, please?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second, motion made by Crystal Bender and second by Dr. Bond. All those in favor? Passed unanimously. Next is the superintendent's report, recognition of athletic indoor track. Mr. Baker, Mr. Carter, and Tracy Leonard. Tracy, coming forward on that? Just you. Oh, I think they hung you out.
Press your button. Press the button.
Push the button on your mic.
All right, great. I can't tell you what a pleasure it is to be back. It represents the hard work that our athletes are doing and then performing. And you have to put both together. I've been a part of kids that don't work hard, that perform very well, and kids that work hard that don't perform nearly as what you would expect. This group I have in front of me does it both, and they've been doing it for a couple years. We have a very comfortable family with track and cross country. We added indoor, and we've been successful mainly because the kids have been working so hard. It's just a real credit, and it's hard to get across in terms without seeing it. It's daily, and it's intense. And I just predict nothing but success for kids that are willing to do this. I'm going to introduce my 4x8 team. That's 2 miles on the track. It's the longest of all the relays. It's a real pleasure to coach a team that wins, a relay team, because you see the cooperative nature of kids. They'll see each other down the road 20 years, and they'll shake hands, and they'll remember that day whenever they came across first. And they know, each one of them knows just what they had to do to get to that point. So after that, I'll introduce our individual winner. And again, from a coaching standpoint, what a pleasure to see somebody that's not dependent on others, but knows how to get it done and puts her mind to order, makes goals, and then accomplishes them. So let me go back to the 4x8 team and pull them up real quick. The first is Casey Culler. Casey is a 3-time state champion. He's a senior. He is our team leader. He's an exceptional person that's having a difficult time deciding on where he wants to go to school and what he wants to do. But when he comes to that conclusion, I'm predicting a lot of success. So this is Casey. Next is Will Haberline. And Will has a brother, and they're like inseparable in school. And it speaks so well to the family. They come in my class, they sit beside each other. And it's just good. It's just a really nice thing to see. Will came out of nowhere a couple years ago as a sprinter and started running distance, and he's just fast, and he works hard, and he just fits in. But we wouldn't have done it this year, I don't think, if Brendan Klein wouldn't have came. and joined us. Brendan's a senior. He's been traditionally a baseball player. He's made the crossover to track. He's on our track team now. He'll be competing with our 4x8 team this spring. What a great kid. His father took my 2 kids to the Everglades, so I feel like I'm giving back a little bit, coaching. And it's back whenever they were in middle school, so that's always nice to see kids progress and get to where he's on the cusp of going to college. He's going to be successful. And then I have my go-to guy for next year, Ackerley Malcaster. He's our 11th grader. He'll be doing all the stuff that Casey has to do this year, next year. So Ackerley's a really strong true distance runner. And he's a 2-mile runner that jumps on that team and does really well. I can't say enough. I'll just give you one little bit about the race. 2 weeks before the race, we ran against Smithsburg. We ran 8:45 and lost to them by 7 seconds. And we were not happy, but we were not down and out. We knew that we had another chance. And then 2 weeks later, we ran against Smithsburg, and we ran 8:27, and we beat them by 14 seconds and became the state champions. And doing that, we set a school record. And I think in doing that also, we've won the 4x8 now 3 of the last 4 times, counting outdoor and indoor. So we're setting a standard that teams have to go through us to take that championship away. So that's what I had to say about these guys. Here's your flag. I'm making this like the Three Stooges.
Ryan.
Brandon.
You would do that right after they get down there.
Yes, Dina. Great.
Once they get them off. You want to stand up closer to the camera.
All right. Good, guys. Sit down. Hurry up. Come on. Fast. Fast. Track kids. And next, and certainly not least, I'm going to tell just a real quick story about Smithsburg. They are like our friend team that were our rivals of. Adam and I are pretty good friends. And Mary comes in, and he comes over and grabs me and said, I got to tell you, my girls have no idea how Mary can run 4 events. And I just told them, she's superhuman. And when another coach comes over and catches you before an event and tells you that kind of stuff, it says a lot more about the person that they're talking about than the person that they're talking to. And when other kids are recognizing just how gifted she is and just how special she is and how hard she works, that's really as high of a compliment as you can get. It's easy for me to call Mary an elite runner. It's a lot tougher whenever the one school that's really competing against you has their people calling you an elite runner, and that's what's going on. So what has she accomplished? 4 straight seasons. That's winter, spring, fall, and winter. She's been a state champion. And that, I know people keep records around here, but I don't know of anybody that's done that. And I think with good health and good strength, I think we'll be down here at the end of this spring season as well. She has 6 total state championships that she's gained in her high school career. And on the last race of her indoor career, she won the 800 meter, the state championship. She set a state record running 2:17, 3 seconds faster than an existing 10-year-old record. And right away it was noted by the Baltimore Sun. It was recognized by our true track community. And sometimes I think it goes unnoticed just what an exceptional athlete she is. She spread her wings this past weekend. She went up to New York. She competed in the Nike Invitational. She was 24th out of 37, but she set a personal best with a 2-minute, 15-second race. It was something to see on TV. I wish I would have been there in person, but some things are going to happen for Mary. She's getting ready to go away from high school, and I think then we will really see some special stuff. So that's Mary. If you want to come up, Mary. I should have brought you up first. So we can see. Congratulations. That's all I have. Thank you.
You know, Coach Baker, it also says something for the coaching is that these children are doing so great and performing so well for you. So we want to thank you.
I always have to correct this. Her true conditioning and her true coach is Sean Snyder. That's who trains her. He works really well with her and the distance kids. I kind of manage the program, but I would be remiss if I didn't give him the credit. But of course, when we get right down to it, it's Mary doing the work. But thank you for the compliments from my coaching staff. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. We have the presentation of proclamation recognizing March as Women's History Month. Ms. Lepley?
Allegheny County Board of Education proclamation. Whereas March 2023 has been designated Women's History Month, and whereas the Board of Education of Allegheny County is honored to celebrate the impact and progress of women and girls, and whereas throughout American history, women and girls have made vital contributions, often in the face of discrimination and undue hardship, and whereas today more women not only work outside of the home, but hold a wider variety of jobs, even making it to the top of business, technology, and science fields. And whereas, due to the persistence and tireless work of countless women, we have made significant progress we've made significant progress in the U.S. and must reflect on the extraordinary and unequal burdens they continue to bear today. And whereas we honor the accomplished and visionary women who have helped build our country and pay tribute to the trailblazers from the recent and distant past, for envisioning a future and building a nation of endless possibilities for all women and girls, and therefore the Board of Education of Allegheny County does hereby proclaim March 2023 as Women's History Month, celebrating women who tell our stories. Furthermore, we call upon Americans to observe this month and to celebrate International Women's Day, this 8th day of March 2023. In witness whereof, we have hereunto set our hands and caused the seal of Allegheny County, Maryland, to be affixed here this 14th day of March 2023. Signed, Robert Farrell, President, Board of Education, and Jeffrey Blank, Superintendent of Schools.
Good evening, Dr. Caldwell, President Farrell, and members of the board. It's an honor to receive this proclamation on behalf of all the female educators. As you're likely aware, education is a female-dominated profession and has been for a very long time. And we so very much appreciate the acknowledgement of Women's History Month and International Women's Day by the board. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wells. Also, before we go any further, if any of the athletes or whatever would like to excuse themselves, I know some of you want to take pictures outside and stuff, so. Okay. We'll have the proclamation recognizing March as Youth Art Month. Ms. Fraley?
Okay, I'd like to present this proclamation. Whereas March 2023 has been designated Youth Art Month by the National Art Education Association, focusing on the theme, Your Art, Your Voice. And whereas art education contributes powerful educational benefits to all elementary, middle, and secondary students, and whereas art develops students' creative problem-solving and critical thinking abilities, and whereas teaching sensitivity to beauty, order, and other expressive qualities, and whereas art education gives students a deeper understanding of multicultural values and beliefs, and whereas art reinforces and brings to life what students learn in other subjects, and whereas it interconnects student learning in art production, art history, art criticism, and aesthetics, and whereas support should be given to art teachers as they attempt to strengthen art education in their schools and communities. Therefore, the Board of Education of Allegheny County does hereby proclaim March 2023 Youth Art Month, Your Art, Your Voice, in Allegheny County Public Schools as an opportunity to improve the well-being of our communities by upgrading visual awareness. In witness hereof, we have hereunto set our hands and caused the seal of Allegheny County, Maryland to be affixed hereto the 14th day of March, 2023, signed by Robert Farrell, President, Board of Education, and Jeffrey S. Blank, Superintendent of Schools. Mr. Athey?
Thank you very much. I forgot again. Thank you very much. Of course, I read this as you read it, and the entire school year just flashes before my eyes, and some of the things that have gone on, some of the things that are currently going on, and I'd like to just state to everyone here, if you haven't already done so, sometime between tomorrow and the 25th of March, I encourage you to visit the Allegany Arts Council building on 9 North Center Street. Their hours are 11 to 5, Tuesday through Saturday, because last Saturday on March 4th, we opened up a student art show, and it is breathtaking. When you go there, you'll see a few pieces of artwork that have ribbons next to those. Those are award recipients selected by a juror that the Arts Council selected to evaluate the artwork. And it will remain open until the 25th of March, and then we do it all again. We're going to hang another show on April 15th next door at the Gilchrist Museum of Art. So we have a lot of wonderful things going on in the art program. It's stunning to be a part of it. As a non-artist who supervises art, it's beautiful to be around. I'm told I shouldn't go anywhere. Yeah, stay there. We have a proclamation recognizing March as Music in Our Schools Month. Dr. David Bond, because he's a musician, we thought he would be good in presenting that. Maybe you could.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's true, though. Music, I was in band and chorus and county band and all that stuff, and it's still a part of my life today. So music, I think, is pretty special. But with that said, the proclamation reads, whereas March 2023 has been designated Music in Our Schools Month by the National Association for Music Education, and whereas the study of music contributes to the development of young people through heightened skills in listening, reading, self-expression, and creativity, and whereas the study of music is basic to a complete education and provides a competitive edge for successful educational reform while engaging students in individual and group activities which develops creativity, problem-solving, and critical and evaluative skills. And whereas music education helps students acquire skills in the production and performance of music, as well as gives them an understanding of history and culture. And whereas music and other arts significantly enhance the morale and quality of the school environment. And whereas music programs should be maintained and improved for all students, regardless of their socioeconomic status or their abilities. Now therefore, we, the Board of Education of Allegheny County, endorses the observance of the month of March as Music in Our Schools Month. Music is all of us. In Allegheny County Public Schools as an opportunity to support the purposes and practices of music, education, encouraging teachers, parents, students, and all citizens to participate. In witness whereof, we have hereunto set our hands and caused the seal of Allegheny County, Maryland to be affixed hereto this 14th day of March 2023. Signed, Robert Farrell, President, Board of Education, and Jeffrey S. Blank, Superintendent of Schools.
Well, thank you very much. I can't say enough about how special a year it's been for the schools, the kids, the community, from all the successes our marching bands had on their respective marching fields just 4 months ago, to an all-county chorus concert that led to the world premiere of a particular arrangement of a song whose theme was rebounding from COVID and getting back to singing again. That was back in November. The all-county orchestra concert was just last Thursday night, and there was a grand finale, a grade 5 through 12 finale that we had never done before. But the personnel that we have now it's different and it's special. They care about the kids, they care about the program as a whole, and they care about their music. They're very talented musically. I'm
thrilled to be around them. And to say nothing about the fact that yesterday it was a music teacher that was crowned the Allegany County Teacher of the Year, a well-deserved honor for Dr. Thompson. I think it's a sign that our community loves our programs. Even though they're elective courses and sometimes they ebb and flow and they become a little bit of a concern sometimes. The pandemic was very hard on middle school, which is why next year the high school elective enrollments aren't going to show a tremendous spike in numbers, but the quality is there, and trust me, the numbers in grade, particularly in grade 4, 5, 6 band and orchestra, are up. They're way up. So the future looks bright for those programs, even though we lost students that are currently in the 8th grade because of the pandemic. We're rebounding very well, and the teaching and learning is exceptional from what I've seen so far. If I might tell one story that some of you may not be aware of, I won't take up too much of your time, but we had all county band 3.5 weeks ago, and the senior conductor was Dr. Mark Lortz from Stevenson University. He's an excellent band director, but he's also a nationally recognized composer of symphonic band and orchestra music. So he came up and he conducted the festival. And this is just an example of how people love creating art in this community, and they love to do it in special, compelling ways. He conducted the concert, and I stopped in and I oversaw that things were in order, and then I had things to get back to here, so I didn't watch him work all day long. So I didn't find out about this surprise he had for me and for the audience until the next day, which was the day of the concert on February 16th. As I mentioned, he's a composer, and he's always wanted to write a symphonic band arrangement of the Can-Can, and he thought he would write one and let our all-county band students play the world premiere of this composition, this arrangement. And he turned around and spoke to the audience. He kind of surprised me with it. And he turned around and talked to the audience. He says, I'm trying really hard to get this work published. And if it's published, every piece of copyrighted paper, from the conductor's score to the timpani part, the trumpet part, the clarinet part, will say, dedicated to the 2023 All-County High School Band, Jeff Avey, Assistant Supervisor of Fine Arts. And I can show this to you if you really want to see it. I'm kind of proud of it. And recently, on March 2nd, I adjudicated a festival in another county, and he was also one of the judges. And before the coordinator of the event briefed the judges, before we could hear any groups, he made a point to literally run up to me and say, Jeff, it got published. And so every piece of copyrighted paper is going to have our system's name on it as it becomes sold. Hopefully millions of copies sold. So it's been a special year for the arts, and I'm thank you for letting me tell you that little story, because it means a lot to me. And we're expecting a bright future, and some young kids are going to come up and fill our elective programs, and we're going to make good music and beautiful art together. Anybody have any questions?
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you for the good work. Next, Dr. Callbaugh.
Now, would you rather me just stay here?
You might as well
or-
stay here.
Okay, all right. So, can you fast forward it for me as I go through it? Okay. All right, so we're going to begin with the academic school calendar first. All board members, you are giving a copy of the 12-month calendar as well as a one-page calendar. And then I just want to kind of review the highlights with you first. And then you could go ahead and advance the slide whenever you're ready to do so. So, Ryan, if you could pull up just the presentation itself. There you go. And then go to the next slide. Okay, so we're looking at the beginning of the school year for the first day for teachers. The highlights would be August 16th and then the school would open pre-Labor Day, August the 23rd. We are doing something different with pre-K and K. We are proposing a staggered start for them, and that's to allow our teachers to set practices and routines with a smaller group of students at the beginning of the school year, and that we'd have that smaller group both in the AM and the PM. And so we think will be of a great benefit to them. Parent conferences are also on the schedule for both the fall and the spring term, as well as our normal supervisor, staff development, and teacher work time. The Thanksgiving break, as well as the Christmas break, are on there, and then we also have our Easter break. We do have built into the April 23-24 calendar the primary election day, so we will need to be off on that day of school as well for that, and schools and offices will be closed. Our last day for students without any built-in days would be May 30th, and our last day with the built-in days would be June 6th. For our teachers, that would also mean if we don't use any of the built-in days and we don't have inclement weather, that they would get out before June, which is kind of unprecedented for us. So if you advance to the next slide. So we are planning or requesting to use those 3 asynchronous days for inclement weather and up to those 5 synchronous days for inclement weather, as we have done this year. So the first 3 asynchronous days would again be asynchronous learning, where the students would log on to Schoology and complete their lessons at any time after 9:30 a.m., and they could do that at any time in that school day. And then if we require additional days for inclement weather beyond those first 3 asynchronous days, then we would have up to 5 synchronous days will be used, and that is real-time learning with a teacher. We just had that occur last week, and everything seemed to go well with using the synchronous learning there for that. And as always, if we have students without connectivity, they are allowed up to 2 days following a closure to submit their assignments to be counted present. Now, we were requested by MSDE, as the other school systems have been, to give parents an opportunity to provide feedback on the asynchronous, synchronous days. We did not have any public comment through the comment section, but there is a time tonight for input from any of our stakeholders during public comment. So you may wait to see if they have any comments about those asynchronous, synchronous weather days. In addition to that, we're always required by the MSDE to include 5 built-in days. So if we'd have an extremely severe winter, we would have the asynchronous, synchronous days, but we would also have to include 5 built-in days at the end of the calendar year. If we don't use them, we end our year as normal. So I'm going to pause there and see if you have any questions about the school calendar. We did have input from our principals, our content supervisors, and our principals also received comment from their faculty and staff at the schools. And then we shared it with ACA as well for their comment.
Ms. Fraley?
So just to clarify, the one-pager that, thank you for doing that for me, by the way. The one-pager has the last day for students as May 30th, and it has the asterisk about it could extend beyond that. So the calendar date-wise, the 30th is not extending, and it would extend beyond that if it's necessary, right?
Only extend it if necessary.
Because the one that we have this year, the one-pager has both days, right? Like
Correct.
it showed it. So we're trying to show on this calendar, a perfect world, if you will, where we don't have to extend beyond that date. So there's not 2 different close dates. And I appreciate that, because I think that a lot of times parents have reached out and said, what's the last day of school? And they see 2 dates on the calendar, and then you have to figure out how many days you've used and things like that. So I think that this is helpful. So thank you.
Dr. Bond?
Just in case somebody asks me, are we splitting the number, like the A to L's into half? Is that what that is? Like half of A to L starts on the 29th, half?
So on the date of the 29th, A to L, that would be just students with last name beginning with A to L. They would be the only ones to attend on that day. The following day, the students with M to Z, and that would be both the AM and the PM session.
Then we have another A to L.
Yes, and same split, and then you have one more day on
Oh,
the
so you're going to give them
first.
2 days?
2 days each.
Gotcha, okay.
That's correct.
All right, thanks.
Okay, so I'll move on to the next item then, which is the dual enrollment program. we are offering through the Maryland Leads grant a dual enrollment program for teacher education to allow our juniors and seniors to get a jump start on a college degree. And this is through the grant. And so we've been working the past months with Alleghany College of Maryland to do this. And the students can apply to go into a number of the pathways with teaching. They can go into early childhood, elementary, middle school, high school as well. And benefits participating in this dual enrollment program, they'll get free tuition for all their college coursework. Free books, free textbooks and course materials. They'll receive a free laptop, and then they'll be on a fast track to teacher certification for that program. So the eligibility to be on this will be based on GPA, and interested students can submit an electronic application, and that application is already open, and students will have until March 17th to submit their application. If they need any assistance with that, they can contact their school counselor who will help them with that. And then so we are hoping to get a nice number to be in that first cohort. And then this will be unusual in that we'll accept both juniors and seniors as two different cohorts for this teacher education program. So we'll know more about numbers here in the next week or so, but we did have an open house, an informational session at Alleghany College of Maryland, and they did have a number of students attend that presentation to learn more about the program. And then the last one is that we're going to partner with FSU this fall on a dual enrollment pilot. It's called the Bobcat Academy. And this will give our incoming seniors an opportunity, if they have the eligibility requirements, again, we're looking at a 3.0 GPA or higher, to go to the Frostburg State University campus and actually take their coursework on the campus and actually be immersed into an actual college experience. So we've been working since, it's been almost a year that we've been working with Frostburg State University on putting this pilot together. For the pilot itself, we're going to just look at 4 different pathways. We're going to look at exercise and sports science, psychology, environmental science, and recreation and parks management. And most of the courses in these programs fit general education courses. So if a student would change their mind and want to go into a different field, most of their coursework would transfer into those fields as well. And all the students participate in this can still participate in their extracurricular activities at their home schools, which is always a concern for both the student and the parent as well. FSU also offered a virtual session for parents and students to attend, and they also had a representative come to the high schools to talk to the students, as did the teacher education program, to talk to the students during recruitment. So there is an online application for that as well. It's also been open. It opened on Friday. So we'll look and see how many of our incoming seniors from any of the high schools want to participate on that Bobcat Academy. So do you have any questions about either dual enrollment program that we're offering? And of course, this is all in line with the blueprint, which encourages all school districts to increase the number of early college offerings and degree programs to our students.
Is there a limit on the number of openings, I guess, if you will, for students to join? Like, I know there's the limitation of their grade point average, but like, is there a certain number of students in our agreement?
Right now, with Alleghany College of Maryland, we do not have a stipulation on how many students. We want to look and see how many students are interested and how many that we can reasonably offer them to, because the coursework through ACM will be offered at the home school through our vetted instructors or ACM instructors that will come to the high schools to deliver the instruction. For the Bobcat Academy, since it's a pilot and we're just looking to look through the challenges of that, we're going to offer it to 20 students in ACPS. And again, we're going to look at that number and see, do we have 25? Do we have 20? And see if we can make accommodations for the students interested in that, with the hopes of expanding the following year with more pathways and more students available. And again, you're looking at free tuition for the Bobcat Academy as well, and free textbooks for those students as well. So it's a great opportunity for parents and students to get a jump start on college at no cost to them.
only because my son's going to be a senior next year. When they take college English, for example, when they pick their courses, is that part of this, or is that a separate agreement, I guess, where you still get college credit?
Yes, it's dual enrollment, which means if they're taking the English class, they're going to take a college English class, so that's going to count for their high school credit as well. If they need a senior math class, that senior college math they take, that's going to count for their college class and their high school as well. So it will go in both transcripts, the high school transcript as well as the college transcript.
Any other questions? Thank you, Dr. Caldwell. Next, we have the superintendent's operating budget. Mr. McKenzie.
Good evening. I'm going to take you through the initial draft of the superintendent's budget this evening. So what we're going to talk about, we're going to look at the board's budget priorities, the budget considerations, the things we kind of took into account, some of our budget assumptions, as well as we're going to look at a review of the budget then. Okay, so as we've talked in the past, these are we have 5 board budget priorities. Modernizing the CTE programs out at the Career Center, making sure we're providing educational recovery programs throughout the school year as well as the summer, maintaining and enhancing student safety and mental health, making every effort to provide employees with negotiated benefits, as well as enhancing our resources and programs for early childhood, which again kind of dovetails with Blueprint. So whenever you look at the budget, kind of everyone has a role. This is the superintendent's role in all of this. So as a superintendent, the superintendent shall take the initiative in preparing a budget, as well as securing adequate funds from local authorities and support for the development of the public schools in the county. And that's right out of the annotated code for Maryland. Your role as board members, basically to provide guidance to the superintendent, as well as setting parameters for employee compensation, educational goals and objectives for the superintendent to implement, as well as engage the public in identifying budget priorities. So some of the things we considered whenever we began this process, or kind of to keep in mind, and several of you have been through this before, so but I think it's important that we talk about the fact that in Maryland we have no authority to bond debt, levy taxes, or raise revenues on our own as a school system. Our neighbors to the north, that's one of the things they are able to do, but here in Maryland we're kind of at the mercy of state and local government to provide for our system. Okay, the state provides revenues, as we talked about previously last month, based upon the district's enrollment demographics and relative wealth. Local government is obligated to fund the local district annually. And the system, as we've talked about previously as well, the system is obligated to prepare a balanced and present a balanced budget. We are not able to go into debt like the federal government. We have to present and prepare a balanced budget. The board's budget hearing with the county, where we'll go and request our appropriation from the county, is actually scheduled for later this month on March the 23rd at 1:10 in the afternoon. Okay, so looking through the actual budget itself. So some of the highlights, I just want to touch on those that we've kind of built into the budget. As we talked previously, we do have contractual obligations within the budget that we've met. We've also providing personnel to support the Blueprints pre-kindergarten initiatives. We've added a position that's going to provide additional administrative help to support special education programs, as well as 4 lab instructional assistants to support some of our smaller elementary schools. And then for infants and toddlers, that demographic within special ed, some of these the students we're getting, that may have drug dependency from an early age, and need additional support. That's where those folks are going to be helping. We're also providing some 2 positions to help train and assist with the development of a bus driver training program. As all districts across the state have been finding it harder and harder to find bus drivers, so we are going to try to help ourselves and develop those folks internally. And then lastly, in terms of positions, we are hiring some additional security officers this year within the budget, and that will bring us up to a total of 17. So. Okay, so in terms of the non-personnel actions, we have seen a decline in the cost of our fuel as well as our supply cost. They've kind of stabilized from where they were in the current year, so we're kind of pulling back on that within the budget. We've seen an increase. Interest is becoming very relevant for us again as the Fed has continued to raise rates. So we've seen a corresponding increase in not only revenues on the revenue side of the table, but also the cost associated with those revenues through bank fees. We've also, as we've kind of talked previously, we have seen an increase in our utility cost as well that we've kind of baked into the budget, as well as a result of increasing health care claims and some other fixed charges, for instance, associated with some of our contractual obligations and increases to salaries. There's a corresponding increase to our payroll taxes and those types of items as well. So we're increasing our fixed charges by over $1 million. And then lastly, we have various capital projects of about $500,000 that we've kind of been able to prioritize within the budget itself. These are smaller projects that aren't to the extent where we would receive state funding. So these are more internal projects. And then we've also increased our athletic transportation allocations to each of the schools, as well as we've appropriated funding for staff development opportunities as requested. And we've also provided funding as a support for the art grant, as for the match for the art grant for the auto tech program at the Career Center. And then, we feel we've prepared a budget within the parameters and priorities that's been outlined by the board. So what you see here is graphically showing by object what the superintendent's budget looks like. And what you can see is, certainly we are a very people-driven organization. If you look at salaries and wages and fixed charges, those 2 objects make up a little over 80% of our budget. In terms of contracted services, those are services that are provided to the board, such as maybe electrical work performed by a vendor, or if we have a speaker come in, that's what those would be. Supplies and materials are just that: pens, pencils, textbooks, etc. Fixed charges relate to personnel expenses, payroll taxes, health care, those types of items. You can see transfers as well, and those are transfers typically to other outside agencies, with the largest of those being the non-public placements for special education. And then the other way we kind of report our budget, so those were objects we just talked about. The other way we report it are categories. So these are the categories that we report to the state in. So administration is just that. Those are the cost of HR, finance, the office of the superintendent and board, the expenses that are more organizational type expenditures. Mid-level administration, those are administrators and supervisors at the schools, board offices, et cetera. Textbook and instructional salaries are just that, the instructional salaries of the organization. Even though I've said instructional supplies there, those are the instructional salaries. Also, we have the students with special needs, our special education appropriation there, student personnel, which are the PPWs. The health services represents the nursing staff that come in and provide nursing assistance, and we contract that work out through the health department. Obviously transportation, operations, you can see there's a larger increase there. Again, operations, we're adding some staff there for safety and security. And then, as we talked earlier, the fixed charges was up as well. And then lastly, I think it's important to point out the capital outlay piece of category is going down, but as you're all aware, we have three large projects in the current year. We used fund balance to be completing those projects. The Mountain Ridge weight room and locker room, the Fort Hill boiler project, and the Allegany Fieldhouse project. So those are the major projects we had going on last year. And then this is just a graphical account of the superintendent's budget by category. We talked a little bit last month about unrestricted revenues, and you can see there's an increase in the county appropriation. I think it's important that we point out that this was a state-determined increase based upon the local share of the county's blueprint obligation. Okay, so there was a 7.4% increase there. State aid was basically flat, as we had talked about last meeting, and we did see a decline in our federal direct aid, which is related to the retiree drug subsidy. And as I mentioned, we used some prior year fund balance that we're not going to have to use this year. So overall, we have a slight decline, about $1.5 million decline in revenues and expenses this year. So a reduction of 1.2% is where we ended up. And this is, as I said, the legislative session is still going on. So there could be additional changes that arise from that could impact the budget. Certainly, PZAM and MABE are monitoring several bills that could have an impact. The minimum wage increase continues to be impactful on the school system. And then the other thing, I have a meeting tomorrow morning with Mr. Logston. He's just got his information as recently as yesterday, on that, where we could see some changes within the rank and makeup of our Title I schools. So that could mean some changes in terms of personnel for those particular schools. So this is still, there could still be changes, I guess, is what I want to just make sure you're all aware of. So, does anyone have any questions? Okay.
I'd just like to thank you for going through the budget priorities and assigning those out. And one of the things that we wanted to, as as a board this year, was to show how we're matching our priorities as we go through, and that our budget priorities get reflected in the budget. Then we have superintendent and board goals and objectives that we have and priorities that we have, and we're trying to show that going through. And so I just want to point out that on the second slide that you had, where it had the budget priorities, that the first one of the CCTE programs, it was noted to me, but you didn't say it in here, so I just want to ask you to point out that there is some changes in programs at the CCTE that you're that there's a piece of the budget in here for. So could you point out what that is, or I can?
Well, certainly, we're adding, we're hoping to continue to add for the agriculture program. We provided additional funding to upgrade the auto tech, the cars that they're working on within the ARC grant. So currently, I think we have 2 electric vehicles, as well as a diesel vehicle and some additional regular gas-powered autos that the students are able to be working on relative to the auto tech program.
Okay, thank you. And then on the second one of the educational recovery programs, I just want to point out that it's not necessarily in our budget this year because we have CARES funding that covers all of that work still. So it's not called out as a change of whether it's personnel or non-personnel, but we do have the educational recovery programs. It's just going to be using CARES funding. And then the other 3 priorities were already called out with the safety and security, that we're having additional safety and security employees. And then, of course, with the negotiated benefits, those were all of the personnel-related items. And then the last one with the early childhood, you have already talked about how there's with the pre-K additional employees for pre-K, as well as just going with what's in the blueprint for pre-K as well. So we've the administration and finance has done a great job in making sure that we met all those priorities and got them in the budget, and also wanted to just call out that we're not using the fund balance, which I know you said, but that's something that every year that we try to get a balanced budget without having to pull into the fund balance, and you've done that this year, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I think, Ms. Bender.
I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. McKenzie, to you and your staff, and Mr. Blank. We've had a lot of trials as a board the last few years, but the budget has not been a major issue, and we've been able to have that done timely and do a lot of extra projects for our students. So thank you for your hard work.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
No other questions. I think we need a motion to adopt the superintendent's budget.
I move to adopt the superintendent's budget
Thank
as
you, Dr.
presented.
Bond. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Bender. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Adopted unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Larry. I know you and your group, all your hard work. Thank you. Moving on, we have considered the second reading of the Code of Ethics Policy, file BCA. Mr. Llewellyn.
Thank you. Board members, this is the second time we've had this before you. The first reading was back in November, and as the board was constituted then, now we've got a new member, but this is a repeal and replace of your current ethics policy, and it's to catch it up with the changes at the state level and the requirements that have come from the state level. So the changes were so great that it was determined just to do a repeal and replace. When you did the first reading, you passed the motion with the caveat that language would be included specific to the composition and operation of the ethics panel. So The entire policy is new, but what's new on second reading for you is what is in yellow, if that makes sense. So we're adding this in. I also want to add that the board can pass it on second reading tonight. However, I will then have to resubmit this to the State Ethics Commission, and they have to give their official blessing of the policy before it becomes effective for us. And so I'll do that, and they're very responsive, and then that should bring this policy up to date.
Motion to approve second reading of the Code of Ethics Policy BCA as
Thank you,
presented.
Ms. Fraley.
Second.
Dr. Bond, thank you. All those in favor, raise your hand. Passed, second reading. So you could move it to the state. Thank you. We have two constituents signed up to speak. Before they speak, I have to read this. The Allegany County Board of Education is pleased to receive comments and ideas from our public pertaining to policies, procedures, and/or practices of the school system. Public comment may still be submitted by the following this modified procedure. Community members may submit emails. They must be received no later than noon on Tuesday, March 14th. Emails received and provided to the board members, but will not be read during the public meeting. During the public comment portion of the meeting, the following topics are excluded and include individual personal issues, comments identifying individual students or staff members, matters that are on appeal or may be appealed, topics for which the board scheduled formal public meetings or hearings, advertised or solicitation for products and/or services. The following guidance applies to all methods of public comment. The Allegany County Board of Education asks that comments be limited to a maximum of 5 minutes per individual, unless otherwise considered by the board president. The individual board members and superintendent will be offered the opportunity to respond to comments from the public in a separate section of the agenda. Any responses that are individual responses of the speaker and do not represent the board's response. The time allotted for each board member shall be limited to a maximum of 3 minutes. There will be no discussion or action taken at this meeting, but may be considered at a future meeting. Issues that are specific to individual employees should be referred to the immediate supervisor for appropriate consideration and review. Rude, slanderous, defamatory, inflammatory, vulgar, or threatening remarks or other behavior that is disruptive or interfere with the order of the meeting will not be permitted. So, with all that being read, we have two folks that have signed up to speak. Ashley Barnes.
Hi. I won't take much of your time. I just had a couple questions. Maybe I've actually sent emails and tried to reach out to get answers that I'm looking for. I'm just I'm wondering if anyone can tell me what the policy would be on with the bus driving. What is the requirements to be a bus driver? Because I couldn't find that information anywhere. Give me just a second, sorry. Also, my other question, I apologize. If someone is witnessing a driver driving erratic, a school bus driver is what I'm speaking of, if they would witness them driving unsafe and they report that, who would they report that to? Do you guys have, is there an email address? Is it just the Board of Education? Is there someone
Does
that?
this have to do with a specific incident or, because I'm
Well,
going
I'm
to
not gonna
refer you to
discuss
Mr.
that.
Llewellyn.
I won't discuss any specific issues. I'm just asking about your policy.
If you want, you can leave us your email address, and we can get you the information that you're asking for. So were those the only two questions? Which was the qualifications of bus drivers and how to report?
How to report any and then what happens with that? So a follow-up to that is okay, so people are reporting it, they're emailing, they're contacting someone. What's the process after that? Is it like a disciplinary thing? Do they get like 3 strikes, you're out? Like, what is the policy of that? And also, too, I know that there's cameras on the bus. What is the policy for if there's an incident involving a child? Are the parents able to view that video? If it's not, if it's there's they can section it out. Excuse me, they can section it out to where they're just viewing their child.
It's going to depend on that one. That's heavily regulated by FERPA. So, but we can
Yeah, I looked up the FERPA law, so I can just contact you then after the meeting, and we can go.
absolutely, yes.
Okay. And what was your name? Mike Llewellyn? You're the attorney for the board.
Yes, I am.
So you're the guy probably I need to find, huh?
There you go.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. We also have Christina Gordon.
Hi, thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. I'm sorry to see that the superintendent isn't here, being that he's the reason that I'm here today. I wanted to address some things that are really concerning for me. I have 5 children who attend public school in Allegany County, all 5 of which receive outside therapy services, different kinds of services, but therapy nonetheless outside of their school. I think we would all agree that the mental health of our kids, of our students, is very important, especially being that on the budget, one of the budget priorities was maintaining and enhancing our student safety and mental health. On February 17th, a letter was sent home with numerous children who receive outside therapy services, stating that effective February 21st, on a holiday weekend, after a holiday weekend, that children who receive outside therapy services during school hours would no longer be excused. One of my children is affected by that. Now, I don't know about all of you. I've worked in healthcare for 10 years. I've worked in mental health care for 8. Not once in any of my certifications. I have a CPRP, I have a med tech, I am certified in mental health first aid, I am certified in DDA. I am a certified peer counselor. Not once in all of our training has it ever been suggested that because attendance may be affected, that we rip a patient out of therapy that they have been in, that they have made progress, leaps and bounds, and thrown them into new therapy with a brand new person, and suggested that they would do better. My son attends therapy 2 days a week for 1 hour each time. If he were to receive therapy within your school system, he would be seen once every 2 weeks for 20 minutes. That same boy this morning asked me why I had to call to make sure that they sent a note home with him from therapy today, just because of a little loophole that I found in that, being that it would be a doctor's note, so it would be excused. And I had to explain to him that a letter was sent home stating that they did not want him to attend outside therapy. He's 9. And he understood the repercussions of that. He understood the repercussions that could have on his mental health. He's been going for a year, and he has made leaps and bounds where he is. And just today, the same little boy ended up being emergency petitioned to the BHU. Now, I don't know about all you, but when I say he's made leaps and bounds from where he was, he has made leaps and bounds. We went from having to call the police once a week to not at all. And what this letter is asking me to do is to destroy months of progress. And this isn't just affecting my son, this is affecting numerous other parents, numerous other children. So, if statistically speaking, children who have good mental health do better in school, regardless of attendance. And yet, we're more focused on their attendance than we are about how they will perform in the classroom, how they will interact with their teachers, their mentors, their idols, how they will interact with their peers. So, I came here to express this concern because this policy is outrageous. not only would it have a severe, severe mental impact on our children who receive these outside therapy services, it's also bordering on violating the ADA, being that the majority of the children who receive these therapy services are special needs. So let's take the numbers. Let's take the numbers out of the equation. Let's take the politics and the technicalities out of it. Look at what happened in Kaiser earlier this school year, where a student who wasn't receiving mental health treatment is no longer here. Now imagine if one of our kids, because of an attendance policy that we are so adamant about keeping perfect, one of our students was to do it because they couldn't receive the services that they required that was tailored to them.
I hate to tell you this, but you're at 5 minutes. And I hear what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. But because of the status of this letter and the case that has gone on, I'm going to have to refer you to Mr. Llewellyn because there's more to what you're talking about than just simple attendance. Okay? So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Llewellyn.
If you want to wait till after the meeting, I'll be happy to talk to you.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you for coming, though. Okay. We need to, we're back into new business to vote on the, improve the academic school calendar. So I need any questions or we need a motion on it?
Motion to approve the academic school calendar as presented.
Thank you, Ms. Bender.
I second the motion.
Ms. Lepton, thank you. All those in favor? Approved. We need to vote to approve the superintendent's operating budget. We already did that. Okay. We need a vote to meet an executive session on April 11th as necessary.
Move to vote in executive session on April 11th.
Thank you, Dr. Bond. Whoop. Okay. Okay, vote to move to the academic school calendar virtual day plan? Okay. So we need to do that.
Because it's both, right? It's both. It's the school calendar and the virtual.
I'd like to amend my motion to include the virtual day plan as outlined by Dr. Caldwell.
Why don't you make a friendly amendment? Go ahead.
Friendly amendment to the original motion to approve the academic school calendar and also the virtual school day plan.
Okay, now you re-seconded it.
Sorry, I thought I made the
You guys are
motion.
confusing me.
I re-second that motion, thank you.
Vote again.
Okay, all those in favor? Passed unanimously. Wow, we already did the budget. Did we vote on the executive session? We have a motion, but I don't think we voted, did we? Yes, we did. We did? You gotta quit leading me astray.
I didn't hear that, sorry.
Okay, reports of special advisory committees.
We did.
Just don't listen to me tonight.
You need a motion to, I didn't think we did, but I was like, maybe I missed it. You need a motion to meet in executive session on
I-
April 11th as necessary.
Okay, motion to meet in executive session, April 11th, 2023, as necessary.
I'll second it this time.
Thank both of you. All those in favor? Okay, we're good with that. Reports of special advisory committees. Student board member, the student board member, Carly Kleiss, cannot be here this evening. I think she's ill also. But she asked me to read, the schools had the opportunity to attend a youth summit at ACM, learning about volunteering, other local opportunities, and could showcase their personal projects. So I hope Carly's feeling better and she gets back to the next meeting and back to school. Board member updates. Do we have any?
Just
Tammy?
one real quick. I've noted before that I serve, through MABE, I serve on the Consortium on Community Supports. And they're going to be putting out some information that's going to go to all school systems, as well as to our, to our health department, as well as to some social service agencies on getting coordinated community supports. And they're going to have grants for that funding and have a plan to get services so all students can get services within an hour if they need them is their goal. And they have a plan of a hub and spoke model, which I think I talked about before too, which the hub would coordinate all those services, and then the spokes are the individual service providers. And they're trying to do it specific by what the region needs, so not be the same in Baltimore City as it is in Allegany County, for example, because it would be different just on the type of services that you would need. And they're putting out that information in March, April, and May, and then the RFP is in June. So you'll see some information of that. It'll go through the superintendent's office as well as to the administration offices here for those grants and proposals. And I just want to make sure that we pay close attention to that, because it is an opportunity that we can get funding that's not just a piece of the puzzle because we're a small county. They're doing it more based on the need, not based on the size of your county. So we have an opportunity there specific to Allegany County, but also just at a state level. And this is part of the blueprint as well. It was part of the legislation required in the blueprint for community support. So they're meeting monthly, and I can take any information back or get information to anybody in the county if they're interested. Thank you.
I'd like to thank Dr. Caldwell for stepping up and filling in Mr. Blank's shoes tonight and keeping us straight up here. I'd like to thank the two folks for coming and speaking and helping us out. And also like to welcome Greg Larry from the Times News back to our midst. It's been about 4 years since you've been here, but happy to see you back.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn, maybe?
Move to adjourn?
Second.
Dr. Bond, Ms. Bender. All those in favor? Meeting adjourned.